Gaze reading where the greats drop by. Trendy authors tell us all the who, what, and why. Anyone can listen, cause we're spoiler free. Gaze reading, from Pulitzer stars to book club picks, where the curious minds can get their fix. So you say you're not gay, well that's okay. There's something for everyone. Gaze reading.
Hello and welcome to Gaze Reading. I'm your host, Jason Blitman, and on today's episode, I have Nicci Cloke talking to me about her new book, Her Many Faces. And my guest gay reader is author Tess Sharpe, who shares what she's been reading and also talks about her new book, No Body, No Crime, which I am so stoked to announce is the August Gaze Reading book club pick through Alstora. Both authors' bios are in the show notes. And if you have not heard about the Alstora Book Club, you can learn more about it in the show notes and in the link tree on the Instagram. But this current month's book is Disappoint Me by Nicola Dinan. And again, next month is No Body, No Crime by Tess Sharpe. When you sign up, you also get a membership to Alstora, which means you can get books at wholesale prices, about 30% off. You can join the group chats online that are all a part of the club, and we talk about the books. And Alstora donates a kid's book to an LGBTQIA+ youth. All really fantastic things. And not to mention, of course, you get a book delivered to your door once a month. And even that is at a great discount. So super awesome. And I hope you go ahead and check that out. Link in the show notes and in the Instagram bio. We are at Gaze Reading on Instagram. You can like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have it in you to leave a 5-star review, it is certainly greatly appreciated. So thank you in advance for all of that. I am grateful that you are here. And now please enjoy my conversations with Nicci and Tess. I am so happy to have you. I'm so happy to see you. Welcome to Gaze Reading.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Are you kidding? Of course. Here, of course, to talk about your book, Her Many Faces.
Yeah.
This is your U.S. debut.
Yes.
But your 8th book?
My 8th book overall. Yeah. But I don't, like the first 2, I don't really count. They were like flukes, I think.
What does that mean?
I feel like I was published in the UK when I was about 23, the first book.
Uh-huh.
So it feels very separate to me. Like I feel proud of it in the way you'd feel proud of something like a younger cousin did. It feels very like not something that I did. And they're so different, those first ones, that I feel in some ways I wish that I hadn't been published then. I think I was still learning a lot and working out what I wanted to write. And yeah, I might have been nicer to debut with something later on. Obviously, I'm grateful for the experience, but yeah.
So it's almost, do you feel like it's a good thing that obviously you've published a lot of books, but that this is what's rolling out your U.S.
Totally
universe?
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated by this whole thing you'd be proud of a younger cousin doing. Is it because of how young you were? You were saying you wish you'd been more experienced.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I was trying to explain this the other day to my friend because we've just reverted the rights to the first book because it's been out of print for a while. And so that's why I own them again. The publisher who had them doesn't own them. But I was trying to explain to a friend and I said, imagine if all your Facebook statuses from like 2003 were public now. Like you would just, it was not embarrassing, but just, yeah, sometimes you move on, don't you?
Yeah. That's interesting.
20s. Yeah.
That's an interesting comparison. Though the thing about a Facebook status is that it was personal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus a novel, I think someone could say, oh, they were a little underbaked.
Yeah.
As a creative person.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's still great. Though now that you have the rights.
Yeah, you'll never know.
Now that you have the rights again, you wouldn't want to retool it with the experience you have now. No, you're like, no, this is dead, bury it, let it be gone forever and forever. Okay.
Yeah.
So then this would be your 7th book, if we're not counting the first 2.
The second one wasn't great either, but yeah.
Oh my God, you're so funny. How are things different, though, do you think, between maybe not those first books because you talked about being so young, but perhaps ones that you were more proud of versus now that you're coming out in the States?
Yeah. So books 3, 4, and 5 were young adult books, which was so fun to write. I had a great time in that period of my career, like doing a lot of events with teenagers, and there were thrillers. I think the first one was like me trying to write like a YA Gone Girl. Like it was that kind of like domestic
Fun.
thriller, but for teens. Yeah. So they were really fun books. And then a couple before this were written under a pseudonym. So I had a pseudonym for a while where I wrote also kind of crime novels, but the first one had like a sort of supernatural edge. So like you weren't sure if it was supernatural or not. So it was based on Slender Man and the murders that happened around the Slender Man like legend, but like an invented urban legend in the UK. And
Cool.
Yeah.
Where did the crime novel genre start for you?
I think that's what I've always liked to read.
Oh,
I remember when I was, I don't know, probably about 11, reading a book called The Tulip Touch by Anne Fine, which is way ahead of its time. I think it was published in the 90s, but it's a really great kind of domestic suspense about this girl who moves to a hotel with her parents because they're hotel managers, and she meets this other girl who is a strange, sinister, very misunderstood young girl who plays these really dark games like with animals or with customers in the hotel. And you find out it's a really powerful piece of writing about kind of nature versus nurture and the effects of childhood trauma, but it's also a really great thriller and like a page turner.
yeah.
And I think I've always, ever since that, wanted that in a book, like something that will make me not want to put it down, stay up late reading. And that is what the feeling that I want to have when I'm writing as well. I want to be desperate to find out what's going to happen to these characters that I'm fully in control of. So crime is the perfect thing to indulge.
I know. I'll make them commit crimes.
Yeah, or be on trial. What's going to happen in this trial is the perfect engine for me to, have twists and tension and suspense.
I don't think I realized how much I liked a trial story. And then, which is funny because I think back to my youth and loved To Kill a Mockingbird, which I think is cliche, certainly as an American, but it's at its core is this like trial story.
Yeah. Yeah, like a really amazing legal thriller as well as everything else.
Yeah. Do you dip into other genres personally in terms of what you read?
Yes. Yeah. I love anything contemporary. I was saying to you before, I love Claire Lombardo. Like I just read that on a flight. And so that kind of modern family saga, like I have a soft spot for that kind of thing.
Yeah. You were the first person to tell me about The Names.
Oh, yeah. Have you read it?
No, it's sitting on my shelf.
Read it. It's so great. Yeah. Anything actually that The Names, as well as being like really great contemporary, I love anything with an interesting structure. So the kind of sliding doors of The Names, like how you follow 3 different timelines, it really does it for me. Yeah. Anything like that is,
Yeah. Speaking of interesting structure, Her Many Faces has a very interesting structure.
Thank you.
Not only that, but it also is such a page turner that I found myself getting towards the end of the book. And I was like, I have not taken nearly as many notes as I normally do because I just haven't stopped reading.
That's so great.
Which is like a blessing and a curse because I was like, uh-oh, it's not good. But not good for me. Great for you because that means that it was so compelling that I couldn't put it down. For the listeners, what is your elevator pitch for Her Many Faces?
Okay. Her Many Faces is the story of Katie, who is a waitress on trial for poisoning 4 very powerful, influential customers at the private members club in London where she works. But it's told from the perspectives of the 5 men who think they know her best. So her dad, her childhood best friend, her lover, or her ex, actually, her lawyer, and a journalist who's investigating the case. And they all have a very different idea about who she is and whether or not she could have committed the crime.
We segued by you talking about interesting structures. How did you land on that structure for this book?
I think for ages, have wanted to write a book around names, not like the names, but I started thinking a while ago about nicknames that I've had in my life. So like my dad calls me Tricky, which is it's ironic because I'm the people pleaser of the family. Like even as a child, like the biggest people pleaser. Like,
Where did that come from?
I think he just finds it quite funny and it rhymes with Nicci.
With
And
Nicci,
it just came from that. So Tricky. Like I've got loads of good guy mates and they would all call me Clokey in this kind of like British lad kind of culture. I had an ex-boyfriend who used to call me Flower because I wore floral dresses. But he was the biggest misogynist, like terrible person. And like looking back, I can see that he wanted me to be a flower.
Yeah.
So I started thinking about that and thinking about nicknames that you have in your life and what they say about the people who give you nicknames and whether anyone can really know us wholly, or whether that you're playing roles all the time in life, in work. This is the first time actually that I'm using my own name again. So I had 2 books under my pseudonym. And so that feels like a different self in a way, like professionally.
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted to do a thriller based on that kind of, different senses of self and the people in our lives. And then it just very quickly became a crime novel. Yeah.
Crime novel. It just very quickly became a crime novel.
Yeah.
And that was not what you originally set out to do. Or the idea was like, oh, this is a concept is so interesting.
Yeah.
What would I do with that? And then
I think, I was open to it at first. Like open to, with all of my books, there tends to be like 2 or 3 things coming together that suddenly that's the novel. So there'll be like one thing that's like a structure or reading a news story or something, and it will have to sit in the background for a while until I find the other ingredient that's going to make an actual story. And I think with How Many Faces, it was slightly to do with conspiracy theories, I guess, because there is that
slightly. What do you...
there's that element of the novel, but I think so. This thing happened to me just after lockdown. Like during lockdown, I got a treadmill, like many people in the UK did when we were all stuck in our houses.
And everywhere.
Yeah. And I used it a lot because I love to run. So by the end of lockdown, it was not working anymore. So my dad recommended this like engineer person who would come and fix it. And this guy turned up really friendly, nice. We went out to my garage where I was keeping the treadmill and just chatting about, I don't know, like life and exercise machines. And like halfway,
as you do,
especially when you haven't seen strangers for a long time.
I know, seriously. You're like, how do I do this again?
And halfway through him fixing it, and with all his like, I don't know, like a spanner or a wrench in his hand, he just segued what we were talking about, the expense of fixing it versus buying a different treadmill. And he just segued immediately into, there's these 3 companies that control the world. And I was a bit like wrong-footed. And he said, because they faked 9/11 and that's how it started. And they're faking the war in Ukraine right now. And I was so just, is this actually happening?
Yeah.
It just it got even worse. And he was talking about COVID being fake. And then he asked me if I was vaccinated, which I am or was. And that, he didn't like that. And I was just suddenly very aware of being in this quite small space with somebody who was very angry.
Yeah. How far into the repair was he?
Not far enough.
Oh, no.
So I was thinking, like, how am I going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And it was fine. Like, he actually couldn't fix it. So he left and I paid him. And then as he left, he was telling me just all these tips for like how to live off the grid, like how if I ever have children, I shouldn't register their birth because then the state can't take them away from me. And if I ever get arrested, I shouldn't give my name. There's some logic behind that. It was just this very intense parallel world that I'd suddenly been like shoved into. And off he went. And like he turned out the whole time he'd been there, he had this friend sitting in the car outside because he refused to drive because he didn't want to have any driving license or anything that gave the state power over him or access to him. So off he went in with this chauffeur that he had hired to drive him around. It's so bizarre. But it was interesting to me after I'd calmed down a bit from the like scared feeling.
Yeah.
Because I'd noticed it was happening more and more frequently. There was like a friend of my family who had told me like fairly close to that time that Joe Biden was someone wearing a mask. And this is a normal, rational person. And
So you thought.
yeah, had at one time
Oh,
been a rational
geez.
person. And then like friends on Facebook, not friends, but school mates on Facebook just posting more and more of this kind of alternative news, conspiracy theories and things. And it was interesting to me how deeply someone can be sucked under by that and how angry this man. It wasn't even anger when I think about it. It was fear. He was very afraid. This man, although he was quite aggressive to me, he was trying to warn me about this thing that he thought. And I thought, if he had murdered somebody, how would that pan out? Like, how would that work in a trial? And are we equipped to deal with that kind of radicalization? And I guess in the novel, it's a subplot, isn't it? It's one of the many things that could have been the reason that Katie has committed this crime. But
it's so funny. In a book like this, I don't want to say there isn't a subplot, because obviously there are, but because of how the story is told, it's almost like a story told of subplots. It's a story of subplots.
Yeah, it's why different versions of her story.
Right.
But they're also sure, the conspiracy angle is mostly the journalist, because he's so adamant that he's figured out why she would have done this, who she
and
is.
the ex-boyfriend, or the friend,
The friend, who's also, but the others, like her ex, has a completely different reason why he thinks she would have done it. And he's got no idea. He's never heard her speak of conspiracy theories. He doesn't believe that's anything to do with her personality.
Right.
So, yeah, it was one aspect of many that kind of came together. And
what was that research experience like for you? I imagine you fell down some rabbit holes.
Some huge rabbit holes. Definitely.
What's a creature larger than a rabbit? You fell down that hole.
Like a badger hole. Yeah. Do you know the hardest thing was the court stuff, the trial stuff? I think as many people, watched lots of legal shows, documentaries or thrillers, so I thought I knew a lot about the UK legal system, but actually it's really complicated. So I ended up, there's a really great barrister, so a barrister, specifically a lawyer who stands up in court and does that part of the trial, who also advises like TV companies and authors
funny,
on how to get their plots right. So she was so helpful, but she read quite a late draft, and the way I had the trial ending, she was, that wouldn't happen. You'll need to do this or this to work for the judge to come to that conclusion. So super helpful, but very stressful.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
No, but going back for a second, what are some of these conspiracy theory rabbit holes that you fell down? Because I imagine you had to have done research on those.
Yeah, loads. So I watched a lot about QAnon, which is so frightening.
Geez.
I love watching horror, and this was way scarier than any horror film.
Was there anything that you were like, I've never heard this theory before? Or was there anything where you were like, oh, I see where these people are coming from? That's what would scare me.
Yeah, the problem is they're all so convinced that anything, like, oh, yeah, I can see that. No.
I guess when someone tells you something with such conviction, you can't help but think, maybe there is a tiny glimmer of truth, but
there's always
simply because
there's that tiny voice in your head that's, what if we're the idiots? These fools watching the news and trusting the news. Yeah, I came across some really interesting ones. I read this really great book, which I now can't remember the name of, so that's really bad, but it's a book about conspiracy theories that came out in the UK a couple of years ago. And it's the history of them. And so they're going to go through some really interesting ones, including one where there was a very prevalent one that said that Paul McCartney had died in the 1960s and that the Beatles had replaced him with somebody else. And I think there are still people today who think that is true. Fascinating. But,
are you familiar with the American comedian Andy Kaufman?
No.
He was on the TV show Taxi.
Okay.
And he was very popular in, I guess, the 80s. And his style of comedy was so specific and macabre And I took a class on comedy in college, the philosophy of comedy, which was fascinating.
Yeah, that does sound fascinating.
And there would be things like he would get a whole group of people, put them on a bus, drive 2 blocks, and then take them off the bus to go into the other side of the building. And like it was things like that were just such extreme versions of life that were hilarious because you're like, is this really happening?
Yeah.
Or he was the kind of comedian that would like literally stand up on a stage and not say a single word for an hour. And just interesting to hear people laugh and not laugh and then laugh and boo, right? Like it's that human experience.
Yeah.
And at some point, very early on in the current president's, I think, initial run for office, where someone was like, this has to just be Andy Kaufman back from the grave in a suit, because it's the kind of comedy that Andy Kaufman would try to pull over. And every once in a while, I'm like, this is just Andy Kaufman. I'm waiting for him to come out and say, just kidding, everyone, and take a bow. Yeah. Look at what I pulled off and what I pulled over on everybody, because that is his style. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's sort of
rational explanation as well. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the only way that it makes sense to me. This like conspiracy that Andy Kaufman is still alive and that is him. Anyway, I just fell down my own rabbit hole, but that's what it makes me think of.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good one.
Going backwards to format, I'm curious to hear the different versions of you that would be in the book. If you were the protagonist.
Oh, yeah. I guess so the people pleaser thing I said earlier about when I was a kid, that has shaped a lot of my life, I think. And that is something that Katie in the book definitely doesn't have. None of the versions of her are particularly people pleasing or considerate in that way. I don't know if you feel this, but I just feel like I've got to this stage now where I'm much calmer and much more certain of myself. And there was a version of me when I was a teenager. I wanted to be a lawyer, so that could have been, and that version of me was very serious and very academic.
That and the crime novel thing makes total sense.
Yeah, it does. Then kind of a party girl in my 20s, I guess, which I imagine, like Katie, we don't really get to see her. She's 23 when the novel ends, but I imagine she probably goes on to become a bit of a party girl.
Have some fun.
A bit wild. She probably deserves it after everything that happens in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. How about you?
I wonder if it's an impossible question to answer, and that's why the book is structured the way that it is.
Yeah, because you need someone else to tell you.
Like, I bet if I thought, okay, what would my mom think? What would my husband think? What would my best friend think? What would a coworker think? And if I were to think about me through their eyes, I could maybe answer that.
Yeah, that's really true, actually.
You know? Yeah. But I don't, my initial instinct is that I see myself more holistically.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I think the fun thing about writing the book is I first started out by thinking what they all thought of her, because that was the origin of the idea. And in a lot of ways, it's something they project onto her more than what they're very biased in the way that we all are unconsciously biased, in that her dad expects her to be this innocent, like charming, lovely, well-raised person, because that's what he wants her to be. And it's very important to him. They've had a very difficult time as a family, and he's invested all of this feeling into her and into making sure she's okay. So he projects a lot, or I guess he chooses to see certain sides of her and ignores other sides.
Yeah.
So as I was writing, having already set that in my head, what they would all think about her, I actually started to learn more about them. And that was the really fun part of writing it, is that they're showing you themselves, really, and they're presenting these versions of her, but what they're really presenting is who they are and how they feel about what happened, and the need they all have to atone for or justify things that they did in the run-up to the murders and the trial and how they've behaved since. And so that was a process of discovery for me. And that's one of the best things when you're writing a novel and you're still discovering all of this information. And yeah, it just evolved.
And similarly, for me, it made me think about how, like, what pieces of ourselves we share with different people, and how no one sort of has that full view of who we are.
Yeah.
And in turn, it's like easy to make assumptions about a person because you only have that one perspective.
Yeah.
And that is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because through the lens of each of these men, they're, for all intents and purposes, right.
Yeah. Yeah. None of them invent the things they've seen or heard, but they interpret them to fit what they've already, because
they don't see the rest of it, so they can only interpret it within the information that they have.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting, I think, thought exercise for me of just like, what am I putting into the world?
Yeah.
And how can I make sure to inform different sides of myself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who would your, let's 5 men be?
Oh, who to talk about me? I think my brother, maybe, because we weren't always close growing up, but we used to argue a lot because we're quite close in age. There's 2 years between us, but we're very close now. We're like, I would say he's probably one of my best friends, and we lived together for a while, like in our early 30s. We shared a flat. So I think he's seen me at lots of different periods in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that kind of dual relationship of like older sister, but then like close friend, we've had a differing relationship as we've become to adults. So yeah, him. Hopefully I wouldn't need a lawyer. So in this story.
No, but if there was a story of Nicci Cloke's life, who would the 5 people have perspectives on you be? And so it doesn't have to be a murder trial.
No. So yeah, I think probably, I don't know if you can have your brother and your dad, because I don't know if that's too, but then it's quite interesting.
No, they're different relationships.
On like family life and growing up. So probably my dad as well, because we are close, we're really close.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he would be like John, like I think he would only see the good in everything I do. So I think he'd be quite a biased.
That's fair.
Yeah. Who else? It's interesting because professionally, I've only worked with women. In publishing, it's so heavily female, and I think you kind of want an insight into that side because you're such a different person at work to who you are in your personal life.
Sure.
That I wish that I could say like an editor or an agent, but they've all been women.
That's very cool though.
Yeah, that has been cool actually. I've worked with some really amazing people. Yeah, if I could turn one of them into a man for the purpose of it,
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. That answer.
Yeah, I would definitely my current partner, Chris, I think, because like I was saying earlier, I just feel like I've reached like a different stage in my life now. I feel really comfortable professionally and like personally, and I think he's been a big part of that, but also is the only person that has that full insight into that. So him. I need a 5th one, don't I? I would like to say I had a really great English teacher when I was at school, like in senior school, so from 11 to 16. And he was the nicest man who really nurtured me wanting to write stories. And a friend and I like wrote this like lame horror script when we were like 14, and he took us and loads of other people to go and film it because he really wanted to encourage that kind of talent, and not that it was talent, but he wanted to encourage that enthusiasm,
that creativity, right?
The important part, like he wanted to give us that. And that was a really like formative part of my life. I think those teenage years, like that's why I'm so interested in this book and some of my previous ones, in starting with a character in their kind of mid to late teens, because I just think it's whatever happens to you, it's such a strange and formative time. So I think maybe him.
That's a great answer. I didn't even think about people from my youth, but of course, I have teachers and other professors and people like that.
Yeah, and actually that teacher, after I was published, he invited me back to speak to his current students.
Oh, how
So
fun.
I did know him as an adult as well. So I think, yeah, he would be a good one.
That's very sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to answer and to think about. One of the first things we talked about in our whole conversation was about your nicknames and how that sort of led
Yeah.
into this as an idea. And nicknames have come up so much recently in so many conversations that I've had.
Okay.
Particularly, there's one, this episode comes out, or the episode that I'm going to refer to comes out this coming Thursday with with crime writer S.A. Cosby.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And I've never really been a crime person. So between that and this, it's like really filling my cup. I'm like, oh, maybe I am a crime reader. But of course, he goes by his initials.
Yeah.
And then we also talked about how in his youth, your nicknames would come from sort of behaviors or things that someone would do, and then it would like stick. And so he talked about how his friends would call him Books because he always had books in his bag.
That's so cute.
Isn't that cute? Yeah. But so I was just thinking a lot. I've been thinking so much about where nicknames come from and how that informs you, but also someone's perception of you.
Yeah. And would he have gone on to do the amazing things he had if he hadn't then been given that identity? Like, it's so interesting.
And in my interview that is out today, I have a whole conversation about Franklin because Franklin is never anything other than Franklin.
Really?
Yeah. I'll call him Frey, but that's not, that's because he won't let me call him anything else. Can't call him Frank. He doesn't like Frank. He doesn't like Frankie. He is Franklin. That is the full name. So the way that names shape and inform not only identity, but perspective that someone has of you. Like a good friend of mine who I went to college with, to me, she's Jill. Yeah. And to everyone else professionally now, she's Jillian.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that there's a friendliness, there's a youthfulness to Jill.
Yeah. My parents would actually never call me Nicci. So my real name is Nicola.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I don't know why I assumed Nicole. How very American of me.
Yeah. I like Nicole. Maybe that should have been my name.
Nicola is great though too.
Nicola's very 80s in the UK. That's probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 in my class at school. It's a very of the moment name that's out of fashion. But they would, if they were calling me something affectionate other than tricky, they would call me Nick. They would know Nicci just doesn't come naturally to them at all. So it's interesting that I took that on and now use it professionally as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very, and why do you think that is?
I liked it when I was young. Like I think I was about 11 when I decided that I wanted that to be my nickname. And I guess it's quite hard when you're a child of something else to suddenly start calling them this. Yeah. And it just stuck. So I think that it's, a name that I've chosen for myself. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of people call me Jay, but if I were to choose a shortened version of my name, I prefer Jace.
Okay.
And there are only very few people that call me Jace. Lots of people call me Jay. Few people call me JB. So it is interesting. And I know who calls me all of those things. Interesting in and of itself.
Yeah. And I guess because you have the relationship with each of those people, the name takes on meaning in a way because it like symbolizes to you that friendship or that relationship. They become the same thing. Yeah.
Anytime I hear Jason, it's like almost jarring. Not a lot of people call me my full name.
Yeah.
Okay, earlier on I said that I didn't take a lot of notes as I was reading, which is a bad thing for me, but a good thing for you because that meant that I couldn't put the book down. So what I did do as I looked back is I underlined so many questions that get asked in the context of the book. Okay. So I'm going to throw some of them at you.
Okay.
If you were a type of cereal, what would you be?
Oh, God. Probably granola. Which sounds really boring, but granola's not boring. It's not boring.
You know what? It's better than the answer in the book.
Yeah. I feel sorry for him for the answer he gives. It's wild. He's going to impress her.
So funny. Okay, tell me why.
Granola, it's good. It's wholesome, but there's all kinds of surprises in there. Like you can make whatever you want into, not whatever you want, but yeah.
There's all sorts of, say more. What do you mean? There's all sorts of surprises in there.
You can mix up the fruit or the nuts that go in there. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sticking by it.
Different flavor profiles, like a vanilla or a
Right.
berry, or
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. What would you be?
Oh man, it's interesting because what would I be versus what is my choice of cereal, I think are two
Yeah.
different things.
Yes. Okay.
I'm a very boring cereal eater.
Okay.
I'm like, give me the fiber.
Yeah.
Like cardboard in a cereal is my, that's my go-to. What would I be? Oh, interesting. I don't know. Something like a little sweet and a little surprising,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
also hearty.
Yeah.
Because I don't like a cereal that, like, what the things we ate as children, Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yeah.
What were my parents thinking? That
Yeah.
is,
Yeah. Things that turn the milk to chocolate milk. Yeah.
no. So I
Yeah.
want to be something like
Yeah.
substantive.
What you're describing is granola. I'm just going to put that out
Or oatmeal with
Yeah.
granola in it.
Oh, yeah. Oatmeal is really warming. And
Yes.
Yeah.
And not dissimilar from oatmeal, or not dissimilar from granola. You can make it your own. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll be oatmeal.
Okay.
And you
great.
could be granola. We're
Yeah.
a good team. Okay, would you rather be able to control time or fly?
The reason this is in there, this is a secret, is that Chris and I have had this argument before. So he thinks that the best superpower to have would be time stop, where like you can stop time and everyone stops and you can do whatever you need to do and then start the world again. Whereas I always said I wanted to teleport. And he thinks teleport in this day and age of Zoom and it's redundant. You don't need to teleport. He was like, why would you need to teleport? Give me an example. And I was like, I don't know, if I need to get to New York for a meeting or something. And he's like, you use Zoom. You don't need to teleport for that. Time stop is useful. But I stick by, I mean, it's not flying, I guess.
No. I
Flying
do.
would be really fun.
Flying would be fun, right? Flying is. Wait, you still didn't actually answer the question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you worried about committing? Because then Chris will give you a hard time.
No, because I like if the question was teleportation, I would definitely say
Yeah,
still
no,
stand
but the
by
question
that.
that you ask in the book is
Flying.
control time or fly.
And I don't. The problem with flying is, although it's probably quite convenient for getting places, people will see you. It will get you a lot of attention that might not be fun. So maybe in this instance, I would say control time.
Or is flying like an alternative to teleporting? Like you could fly from home to New York for a meeting.
Yeah, if I'm like supersonic speed, then yeah.
There was no, you didn't say slowly.
Yeah, just flying like a bird, like actually.
Right.
Yeah.
That would take you a while. No, okay.
Yeah.
Fly like Superman.
Yeah, I'm gonna go that. I think that is more useful.
Interesting. Okay.
What do you think?
I would be curious to hear Chris's version of, or like what time controlling means to him.
So he would say that, say he needs to get to a meeting, not in New York necessarily, but he would say that he'd stop time, steal a car and drive. But you still have to do the drive.
Or stop time, procrastinate.
Yeah.
And then go. So he doesn't, if he's running late, whatever. Okay.
Please think how many books you could just press stop and then read a whole book, write a whole book, and then start the world again. But it's very lonely if you're doing that.
That's true. But I do see the value in that because, like, I have an interview later this week and I'm not done with the book. I could use another day or two, or at least a couple hours. People do say there aren't enough hours in the day, or I wish I had a little bit more time. So I see the argument.
Okay, it's fine. You can be team time. I don't
Wait,
mind.
if you could control time, does that mean you could go backwards, or is it just a matter of stopping?
I think
things you didn't know you were going to talk about
we
for
need to
10 minutes today.
It's really specific boundaries on this. But yeah, I would say control time. You can go back in time.
Okay, in that case, I think I would maybe want to do time.
Yeah, but if you start going back in time and messing things up, then there's a whole like
Yeah, the butterfly effect.
effect.
No, but maybe go back in time to like re-experience something
Yeah.
or to double check something, to fact check,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Just be like an observer, but not get involved in.
Right. Like
Yeah.
Scrooge.
Yeah. Okay. Have you
Yeah.
read the Steve? I can't remember what it's called now. The Stephen King novel where he goes back in time.
No. I've never read any Stephen King.
If you ever do, I would recommend this because this isn't a scary one. It's this guy discovers a kind of portal that goes back to, I want to say it's 1960 or 61. And he tries to think what he could do in that time. So he ends up waiting for a couple of years to try and stop JFK being shot because he decides that is a really significant time in history. And it's really great. It's a really great book. It was made into a good TV series with, I want to say James Franco was the lead, but yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
this does sound familiar.
Yeah. It's a really good Stephen King one. It's not a scary one or
But you
not
don't remember what
really a
it's called.
thriller. Huh?
You don't remember what it's called.
I think it might be called 11/22/63.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, yes, that is what it's called.
Yeah. Okay.
Good job. What is the order in which I want to ask you these questions? What is your worst fear? Which is an indirect question in the book.
Yeah, I guess my kind of big answer would be losing people that I love. I have a lot of anxiety about that. Certainly when I was younger, I had a lot of kind of intrusive thoughts about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like an easier answer, I'm really claustrophobic, very claustrophobic. So anything that's like small spaces. I saw a video on Instagram the other day that was a diver stuck under like an ice shelf, not being able to get out. And so things like that, or people exploring caves, there's like slot canyons or anything like that really makes me feel like very stressed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I didn't really know how badly I felt about that until I went to Notre Dame.
Okay.
And this was before the fire, so you could still go up to the top. And we were walking up these spiral staircases, and I don't know if you've ever done it or if you've ever been. They're so compact, and you have a person directly in front of you and a person directly behind you, just like filing up the stairs. And I had no idea how long this was. I was like just walking and walking to nowhere. And I was having a panic attack. However, I got to the top and it was absolutely incredible and stunning. And I'm so glad I did it. And I think had I known, this is going to be, it's going to be a 10-minute journey, but it's going to be fine. There will be stops and starts, but you got this. I think I might have been okay. But in the moment, I didn't know those things and it was terrible.
Yeah. That sounds, so it's just that once you start to realize that if you want to get out, you can't.
Yeah. No, there was no like, excuse me, I need to get past you. There was nowhere to go.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
So that was terrible. But beautiful, highly recommend it, but know that going in. Take a Xanax before you do it.
Yes.
My last question that gets asked in the book that I will ask you is what's the best thing that ever happened to you?
Oh my God. It's hard, isn't it? Because there are loads of different small, great things. How do you decide the defining thing that ever happened, the best thing that's ever happened?
You did this to your character.
I know.
Though it is interesting, back to the conversation about perspective, like the different people that are having their different perspectives, who asks the question might change your answer.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to say, I could say being published was like one of the like best things that ever happened to me, but it seems so small in compared to so many other lovely things that have happened. And
it's also interesting that that's professional.
Yeah. But I think with writing, it always feels like more. It feels like it's my identity.
Do you feel like that means work is your identity or no?
No. I think the writing itself is the best thing. Like that. My favorite thing is having an idea and sitting with that idea and not having yet committed it to the page. And the joy of creating and imagining it reminds me of being little and making up stories. And I think I feel very lucky that my work takes me back to that state, because I've done a million other jobs before and during being published, including being like a Christmas elf, a waitress, like Katie is in the book, all kinds of like strange and wonderful. I looked as a childminder for a while, and so those were all great jobs. Actually, being a Christmas elf is not a great job. If anybody is ever considering it,
Where were you a Christmas elf?
have care. I was a Christmas elf at the local garden centre where I grew up. Do you have garden centres in the US? Do you call them something else?
Garden center, like where you buy plants and things?
Yeah.
So we have hardware stores that have a garden center department, and it will be called the garden center.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay.
But you were a Christmas elf at a garden center?
Yeah. So in this context, like in a small village, it's just a garden centre, but it tends to, if we have these, they tend to have like home sections where you get like beautiful cushions and patio furniture. And
Sure.
there's usually a cafe, because British people love to eat cake wherever they go and have tea. And so there's a cafe. And this is a really big one. And so at Christmas, in its car park, it has a ice rink for skating. And they also put in a Santa's grotto, because that will make loads of money from all the surrounding like towns coming to see Santa. And this was, I think, after my second book had come out, but I'd moved back from London because I was like between jobs. Like the books that I was getting paid a pittance for them. They weren't like selling loads of copies or anything. So I moved home for a while to think about my next move, which I think felt quite scary, like going backwards, having set off and set up the city life and then coming back home. I guess with my tail between my legs a bit, like sheepish about this false start and needing to start again. But anyway, my mum had seen an advert in the paper for they need staff for the grotto. What a lovely, jolly way to cheer you up in this difficult time in your life. So I went and interviewed, and I did get a job, which was good, because I think my self-esteem could not have taken it at that point had I not got the job at the grotto. But it was not jolly. It was very long hours. The system they'd introduced that year was that you had to book a time to come and see Santa. You couldn't just turn up, which was a difference to previous years, which meant that I was the Q elf for a while, and I moved to be the toy shop elf, which was a nice job because you could hide in the toy shop. But the Q elf had to spend their day turning away
people who didn't make
children
appointments.
who wanted to see Santa.
Yeah.
Being the actual antithesis of Christmas, like sending crying children on their way because Santa was fully booked for the next month.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Someone also got vomited on. One of the other elves, not me, thankfully.
Yeah. So that is okay.
That was not the best thing that ever happened to me.
No. But I unpacking getting published as the best thing that ever happened to you, I think makes sense.
Yeah. I don't think that is my true answer. That is definitely one of the key events of my life. And I feel very lucky about it.
There is something to be said about if we change the phrasing of it and say your passion was validated.
Yeah.
Right.
It put me on this path, and although it has been like a winding path at times, for this book I actually had 5 years where I didn't write. It's been 5 years between the two books being published, and during that time I had this massive crisis of confidence where I just started and abandoned 12 separate novels. So I had this really long, dark stretch where I just thought I might never do this again. I think I've lost my confidence so much that I'm not going to be able to write another book. But luckily, Her Many Faces, it did eventually come. So yeah, it hasn't been like a straightforward path, but it is one that gives me great joy and satisfaction and, I don't know, contentment, I guess, when it's going, which isn't all the time, but
sure. And to some degree, the creative element is something you can control. right? Whether or not it gets published is not in your control. But the idea that these ideas come to you, that you have something in you that makes you put them on the page.
Yeah. Yeah. And you get to connect. I've met some really great friends through this career. That's how I met Chris. And so it has shaped my life hugely and connected with some really wonderful readers and people who are like just so kind. And it's a real privilege to do that as a job. And yeah, so I definitely, that is one of the most significant things that have happened to me.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great answer.
Do you know yours?
A blinding answer. Oh, geez. It's hard, I think, to think about one thing.
Yeah.
However, the first thing that comes to mind is when I was 3 years old, my mom took me to see Peter Pan. And I think and that really set me on a path.
Yeah.
And made me who I am today. And I think
So lovely.
It was, so in turn, I think I would have to say something like that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, I think. But it also sounds lame.
No, it doesn't sound lame. That's a really nice one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Nicci Cloke, I am so happy to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Her Many Faces by Nicci Cloke is out now wherever you get your books. So go get it, experience it, and enjoy it and not be able to put it down just like me.
Thank you.
Guess Gay Reader Time.
Wait, here we go. I wanted to make sure I had your book next to me.
Oh, you're so sweet. I love that cover so much.
This cover is out of control. The amount of books that you're going to sell because of this cover alone.
Oh, you're so sweet. I had a vision. I either have no vision whatsoever for the cover or I have a really specific vision. I sent in lesbian Pope novels from the 1950s as examples, and then also a bunch of foreign Romancing the Stone cover. And like the Indiana Jones movie posters from the 1980s because I really wanted that kind of look.
Yes. Okay.
And
We're going to get into that. Yeah. It is so good. Even my husband was like, I want to read that book just because of the cover.
That's so sweet. I'm so delighted with it.
We will talk about it in a second. But Tess Sharpe, welcome to Gays Reading. Thank you for being my guest gay reader today.
And thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about what I'm reading.
Tell me, what are you reading? Now I have to know.
So I am doing a reread summer, partly because I have like 6 projects that I'm working on in various categories right now. Like I'm drafting something, I'm outlining something. I have a ghostwrite that I'm doing in like 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
I'm rewriting 2 novels. And so I was like, I'm focused on books that I love, that I really want to revisit. And it's been so nice because I am not drafting YA right now. And I really try to stay away from reading YA while I'm drafting it because I find that the voice bleed is the biggest there. And so I finally have like gotten to dive back into some of my YA favorites. I'm rereading It Goes Like This by Miel Moreland, which is a book about it's a YA book about a queer band that broke up, and the 2 girls involved in the band also broke up. And it's about the aftermath of it. It's a book that really reminds me of how far we've come in queer YA. You know, it's the kind of book that I would have loved to read as a teenager when really all we had were like coming out narratives. And it's one of those books that when I was a teenager, it wouldn't be published. And now it's just part of this beautiful pantheon of queer YA that is just so delightful. I'm 38. So when I was a teenager, we were just starting with queer YA, and it was really a lot of coming out narratives. And so it really just in the span of my career, I've been publishing since 2000. My first queer YA came out in 2014. I sold it in 2012. So I was 24. And that was really the beginning, just in that 12-year time period, it's just exploded in such a beautiful way. Partly because 2015, I think, is when Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda came out, Becky Albertone's book. And that really was the one, I would say, that taught the industry that queer YA could be commercial and a good investment. And so we've really taken off since then. But like, I remember when my debut was 2014, the year before Simon. And it was the first queer book that my publisher, which was Hyperion at the time, had published in like 7 years.
Wow.
It was one of the only sapphic books of that year. And now it's so amazing to be like one of many. It's so beautiful to see, especially, with YA. Your readership cycles in and out about every 8 years. It's the challenge of it. You have to keep up with them. And they will tell you that they hate something to your face. That's what I love about them. Teenagers are bullshit detectors. And so it's really been beautiful to see the subcategory basically evolve with the kids.
Yeah.
It's been really beneficial. It's been really wonderful. And then I'm also reading Gay the Prey Away by Natalie Nondas. I had the lovely opportunity to read it when it was released as an indie book and then got snatched up by trade. But I love this book because Natalie it's a really personal book for Natalie. You can tell Natalie is also an amazing narrator. If the listeners do not know, though I'm sure that you probably do if you've read, you're in the know of any sapphic books. She is queen of the sapphic romance audio space. But it's just so well done. It's so touching. It's so much about the power of fiction, the power of love, and breaking free from these cult-like dynamics that are so harmful. And I really identify with it, even though I did not grow up inside religion. I grew up alongside it.
Sure.
And so it really, I think, is one of those really important books. And one of those books that, in a way, is going to act as a key to breaking free of a cage. That is what happens in the book for our main character. And so I feel like that double message is so beautiful, and its double purpose is so beautiful because it's going to save lives in the way that books saved the character's life and broke her free. And so powerful.
You earlier were talking about when you started publishing or when you were a teen, a lot of the stories were coming out stories.
Yeah.
And that was sort of those were the queer stories that we were getting, and we're around the same age. And I feel I feel this very deeply. And something that I'm obsessed with about No Body, No Crime is the queerness is not the essence of the story. It's just a part of the story.
Yes. And it's so interesting because I toiled in the query mines for 7 years because of that. All of my books are like that. I grew up in a really unusual situation for someone my age, our age. Our age, often when we were growing up, we didn't know any queer people. We didn't have any queer portrayals. That's kind of our generation. I did not grow up like that. I grew up in a space where the most successful relationships that I was surrounded by were queer ones. My mom.
Oh, wow.
My mom is, friends with so many artists. And so I had my gunkles who are like her gay artist friends. And I lived with them in San Francisco as a teenager. I was, my cousin Ryan, who is a writer as well, Ryan O'Connell, wonderful writer, wonderful novelist. He has a short story collection coming out next year.
Ryan O'Connell is your cousin?
Yes, I love Ryan so much. But Ryan has become from a very gay family. It's kind of true,
Oh my God.
I know, he's the best. Both of my grandmother's youngest grandchildren became novelists and screenwriters. It's so funny. She would have loved it. She would have loved to see both of us on the shelves. She unfortunately passed away before she could do that. So I like to think that she's somewhere. As an atheist, I don't really think that she's anywhere, but I like to think that she knew somehow. But no, Ryan,
Right.
I love him so much. And just, I'm so excited for his short story collection because I love him in short form just as much as I love him in novel form. But he's
Yeah.
so funny. Like, he got
Yeah.
all of my grandmother's dark humor. He's just so wonderful. But he says, jokingly that we come from a very gay family, and it's kind of true. Like, the straight people are a little bit outliers. And so I grew up in this atmosphere where queerness was really, really normalized. I
That's
kind of
amazing.
interpreted that, like, queerness equals successful relationships in a lot of ways, because all of the really long-term relationships that I was surrounded by were queer ones. My uncles had been together both sets of uncles have been together for like 20 plus years.
I think putting that contextually for normalizing queerness is a great place to now hear about No Body, No Crime. What is your elevator pitch for No Body, No Crime?
So No Body, No Crime is about a rural PI who finds herself on the trail of the one who got away with her heart and with murder. So it's about two women who meet each other while killing a boy at a Sweet 16 party because he's not a very nice person. And during the process of murdering him and burying him in the woods at 16, they fall in love. And then one of them disappears at 18 with no word. And the book takes place 6 years later in their mid-20s, when the one who has been left behind, who is now a rural PI, is tasked by the love interest, Chloe's family, to track her down. And she finds out that the secrets and that the boy they buried, they didn't bury them deep enough. It's my ode to Coen brothers, the early Coen brothers, Raising Arizona, Fargo, and also, the romantic action thrillers of the 80s, specifically Romancing the Stone, very influenced by that as well. And I heard someone say that it's Tess Sharpe at her most indulgent. And I was like, that's very true.
But what's part of why I loved it so much is because the stakes are real, and yet I know that Tess is winking at us the whole time.
It is. It was a book that really came out of the mother is the necessity of invention. I was supposed to write another book during the time, but I was writing a TV pitch for my first adult novel, Barbed Wire Heart, during that summer. And I was worried about voice bleed with the other novel I was supposed to write because it was more in tune with Barbed Wire Heart. And so I asked myself, what can I write during this period of time? Because I have to write a book proposal that is not going to give me voice bleed, that I'm not going to, have any crossover with. And the answer ended up being, what if I poke fun at everything that I normally take really seriously? And I'm someone who's like really insecure about my ability to be funny, partly because it's like I'm related to Ryan. Like, I'm related to a genuinely funny person, like genuinely funny. I have really, really funny people in my family, and I'm really aware of the limits of my humor, And so I was like, can I go this darkly funny? Is the audience going to like it? It's such an outlier in my catalog, And I don't think I'm ever going to, write another one like it. But it was really like of the moment. It was just like one of those things where everything came together. I had the time to do it. I genuinely didn't think it was going to sell. I thought it was a little too out there. And so I was really surprised when it sold. Like, I gave it to my agent and he's like, I don't understand the peacocks, because he's a city guy. And the peacocks didn't exist in the proposal. They only existed in the pitch. So he's like, are you trying to be camp? And I had to like explain to him that like in rural areas, feral birds get loose. Well, domesticated birds get loose. They turn feral, they breed, and then they like attack neighborhoods. And it's so funny because whenever I talk about the peacocks, somebody from a rural area has a bird story for me. And then a city person is like, what are you talking about? And so, like, I gave it to Jim, my agent, and I was like, look, it's weird. I don't think it's going to sell, but I really liked writing it. Let's just take it out if you like it, and we'll see. And it was out for like 5 months. And I was like, I totally wrote it off because that's just for my peace of mind. I'm just like, okay, it's not going to sell. My silly book is not going to sell.
Yeah.
And then it did. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I have to finish it.
Well, and not only did it, but like MCD, FSG is
It's such a lovely
funny for their catalog too, in such a fun way.
Yeah, it does. It fits
Right.
in with the kind of weirdness of the boutique imprint, and it's been really interesting. I've always been really part of a big machine. I've been part of larger imprints. Lots of people, and this is really Sean McDonald's baby, and he's such an interesting guy, such an interesting editor. So enthusiastic, really wonderful. The team is just lovely. I got to work with the wonderful Brianna Fairman before she moved over to Putnam. So she edited this with me and highly recommend her to any query writers on sub. I think she's acquiring now over at Putnam. And I had so much fun with her. She has such a beautiful hold on structure, which is the thing I am pickiest about. All of my editors will tell you this. And I just had so much fun working with her and so much fun really paring it down and making it as propulsive as possible.
When you were talking about the cover, talked about all of the different references that you sent, including Indiana Jones, which I'm embarrassed to admit, I just saw Raiders of the Lost Ark for the very first time, literally 2 nights ago in movie theaters. And I had the best time.
Yes, I really wanted the cover to really evoke that 80s action thriller sense. I went to my artist friends and I was like, I sent them a bunch of movie posters. And I was like, what is this art style? Because I was like, I don't know. I'm ignorant. And I think that it was my friend Margaret Owen who was like, this is like kind of what I would call romantic realism, and that kind of glossiness, that kind of burnt umber orange kind of color. And just, I had such a wonderful experience with Zoe, who did the cover for me, and just dream cover. When I saw it, I just gasped. Like, it was everything that I wanted. And I really
Well, and what's so fun about it is that having just seen Indiana Jones, what was incredible about that movie is it is also in on its own, not joke, but it also doesn't take itself overly seriously.
Yes.
The stakes are real, the stakes are high, and yet it's playful and you can laugh at some of the things that are happening. And so immediately for me, that set the tone for this book. I was like, I know that I have permission to laugh. And so I was just sucked in from jump, and I'm obsessed.
It is. I love to lean into the silliness and campiness of Gold Rush country and rural crime, because truly sometimes it can be so absurd. Sometimes I think that we're really used to, and I'm guilty of this too, a really smart, competent criminal. And that's not always the case. And so to write about incompetent criminals was really, really fun. I love the Benedicts. I love them so much. They're so crazy. And they're just absolutely wild. But they're also, they're based on either archetypes or actual politicians from NorCal. That's all I will say without getting into too much trouble.
Yes. This is going to get me canceled. And maybe you're going to hang up the call as soon as I say this. But I had not heard the Taylor Swift song until 5 minutes before getting on this call.
It's actually, okay, this is hilarious, though, because the person who named the book also did not know it was a Taylor Swift title. So I originally called it, I had a really generic working title. It was just called In the Pines. And I was just like, this is so generic. Like covers, I get titles right every 8 books. I nail it every 8 books, and the rest of the time I go to my writer friends and I'm like, here's the pitch, throw some titles at me. And so my friend Cindy, who is a wonderful thriller writer, Perfect Little Monsters is her debut. We were all throwing out things, and Cindy suggested No Body, No Crime, and everyone was like, oh my God, Taylor Swift, that's so funny. And Cindy was like, wait, that's a Taylor Swift song? So, and I kind of love that. And I was like, I mean, we can forgive her because like Tay has so many songs at this point. Her catalog is enormous. We can't keep track, you know? She's so
No.
prolific. But I thought it was so funny because I love specifically Taylor's storytelling songs, of which No
Mm,
Body, No Crime is a really classic one. I love the
totally.
country genre of songs that are about women killing men. It
Uh,
is such a subcategory, a subgenre in the country music scene. And so it was delightful to kind of do a little ode to that.
yeah, like what a great happy accident. And I was like, in the fantasy musicalized version, it's like Chapel Roan is doing the score in my
Yeah,
imagination.
exactly. That would be amazing. It is
Yeah,
actually Mike Film Agent just took it out. So we'll see what happens.
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed
Um,
always.
this has been so fun. Thank you for being my guest gay reader today.
Thank you. This was so much fun. I had so much fun. I apologize for the horrible internet as usual. It's a clear
No, it's been
day, but you never know out here.
no, that's okay. I'm obsessed. I want to like come hang out in the mountains. That's amazing.
I have a lovely guest room.
Congratulations on the book.
Yeah.
I loved it so much. And I think the people really need a end of summer blockbuster book to read because that's exactly what this is. It's fun,
Oh, you're
it's
so sweet.
cheeky, it's self-aware, and it's that like little action thriller that you need to end your summer.
Oh, you're so sweet. That's exactly what I aimed for. So I'm happy to hear that I accomplished my goal.
Yes, goal accomplished. Done and done. Tess, so nice to meet you, and I look forward to chatting soon.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Nicci and Tess. Her Many Faces is out now wherever you get your books, as is No Body, No Crime. But make sure to join us for the August book club through Alstora. I will see you next week. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.